My own mother pulled me aside the night of my engagement party and whispered a name I had never heard before, but when I Googled it, at 2 a.m., I found a woman who had been engaged to my fiancé just 8 months before he proposed to me. I was the happiest I had ever been in my life. That is the part that gets me. Even now, even after everything. I was genuinely completely happy. The kind of happy that makes you feel slightly guilty, like you've been given more than your share and somewhere an invoice is being prepared. And then my mother pulled me into the hallway and said a name I had never heard. And the invoice arrived. My name is Brooke Callahan. I am 32 years old. I teach second grade at Maplewood Elementary in Charlotte, North Carolina, which means I spend my days explaining the world to 7-year-olds and occasionally wondering if they have it figured out better than the rest of us. I met Tyler Marsh 5 years ago at a mutual friend's housewarming. He was in finance, not the flashy kind, the quiet, competent kind. And he had the kind of steady, unhurried presence that I found immediately attractive after a string of relationships with men who made everything feel like a weather event. Tyler was calm. Tyler was consistent. Tyler showed up when he said he would and called when he said he'd call and remembered the small things. The name of my difficult student, the coffee order that changed depending on my mood, the anniversary of my dad's passing. He was, by every measure I had developed over 32 years of being a person, a good man. I want to be clear about that, because this story is complicated. And I don't want to flatten him into a villain before you understand the full shape of things. Tyler was a good man. He was also someone who had never fully escaped the shadow of his mother. But I didn't understand that yet. Not on the night of the engagement party. Not while I was standing in the hallway in my favorite green dress with a ring on my finger that still felt slightly unreal. The proposal had happened 3 weeks earlier. A Sunday evening, nothing elaborate. Tyler knew I found grand public gestures mortifying. We were on the back porch of the house we'd been renting together for 2 years, takeout containers between us. The kind of comfortable silence that only exists between people who have stopped performing for each other. He'd put down his fork and reached into his jacket pocket and said very quietly, "I've been carrying this around for 6 weeks waiting for the right moment, and I think this is the right moment because this, right here, takeout and no shoes, and you complaining about your Tuesday class. This is my life, and I want it to be my life permanently." The ring was simple, a solitaire. He'd asked my sister what I liked. I said yes before he finished the sentence. The engagement party was his mother's idea. Linda Marsh is, a woman of precise opinions and considerable organizational capability, and from the moment Tyler called her with the news, she had been managing the celebration with the focused energy of someone who had been waiting a long time for this particular project. She booked the venue. She chose the caterer. She designed the invitations. She consulted me on exactly 3 decisions: the color scheme, the appetizers, and whether I preferred white wine or rosé at the welcome table, and executed the rest with the efficiency of a military operation. I told myself I was grateful. I told Tyler it was a little much. He said, "I know, let her have this. It makes her happy." I let her have it. The party was beautiful. I will give Linda that completely and without sarcasm. The venue was a restored farmhouse outside the city with string lights and wooden tables and wildflowers in mason jars. 80 people, our closest family and friends. Tyler's hand in mine all evening, warm and familiar. I was happy. I danced with my sister. I cried a little when my mom gave a toast that was equal parts embarrassing and perfect. I ate too many of the little crab appetizers and had no regrets about it whatsoever. And then, around 9 p.m., my mother found me near the dessert table. My mother's name is Diane Callahan. She is 61 years old, a retired school administrator, and she is constitutionally incapable of staying quiet about something that is bothering her. This is occasionally frustrating and has, over the course of my life, also saved me from at least 3 genuinely bad decisions. She appeared at my elbow with a glass of wine and the particular expression she wears when she has been sitting on something. "You look beautiful tonight," she said first, because she is my mother and she leads with love even when she's about to detonate something. "Thank you, Mom. Can I pull you aside for just 1 second? Just over here." She tilted her head toward the hallway that led to the coat room, away from the music and the crowd. I followed her. She turned to face me and lowered her voice in the way that meant this was not a conversation for the party. "I need to ask you something, and I need you not to react until I finish." My stomach shifted slightly. "Okay. Has Tyler ever mentioned someone named—" She glanced past me once, checking we were alone. "Savannah Cole?" I looked at her. The name meant nothing to me. Genuinely nothing. No flicker of recognition. No half-remembered mention. A complete blank. "No," I said. "Who is that?" My mother pressed her lips together. "I was talking to Carol Hendricks earlier. You know Carol, she does the flower arrangements at St. Michael's. And she mentioned she'd heard something. I don't want to repeat secondhand gossip at your engagement party, Brooke. I don't. But it's been sitting on me all evening and Mom, she said that name was linked to Tyler recently. Like, not long before you two got engaged." I stared at her. The music from the main room drifted through the hallway. Someone laughed loud and bright. How recently? I asked. My mother set down her wine glass. Carol said she thought they were engaged, she said quietly. To each other. Before you? I went back to the party. I smiled and I danced and I let Tyler spin me once on the little makeshift dance floor while his mother watched from the side with an expression of satisfied ownership that I had always found mildly unsettling and now found something else entirely. I did all of this on autopilot while one corner of my brain quietly repeated a name like a skipping record. Savannah Cole, Savannah Cole, Savannah Cole. We got home at 11:30. Tyler was tired and happy, the easy kind of tired that comes from a good evening. He fell asleep within minutes, his breathing settling into the slow rhythm I knew as well as my own. I lay next to him and stared at the ceiling. At 1:47 a.m., I picked up my phone. I went to Google. I typed Savannah Cole Charlotte NC. The results loaded, and the first image that appeared, the very first one from an Instagram account set to public, was a woman I had never seen before. She was smiling. She was pretty. She had dark hair and bright eyes, and she was holding up her left hand toward the camera. On her finger was an engagement ring. I recognized the hand holding hers. I would know it anywhere. It was Tyler's. I sat in the dark next to my sleeping fiancé, and I scrolled through every photograph on that Instagram page with the focused, terrible calm of someone who has just discovered the floor has a trapdoor. The engagement photos were from 14 months ago. We had been together for 5 years, which meant Tyler had been with me, living with me, building a life with me, while also, at some point during those 5 years, getting engaged to someone else. At 2:14 a.m., I found the post where she announced the engagement was off. The caption was 3 words, choosing myself, posted 8 months ago. 3 weeks after that, I checked because I needed to know. Tyler had suggested we go away for a long weekend. He'd been unusually attentive. He'd said on the drive back that being with me made everything feel clear. I had thought he meant clear in the way that good relationships make things clear. I was now wondering what exactly he had needed clarity from. I did not sleep. I lay in the dark for 2 more hours. Phone face down on my chest, listening to Tyler breathe, turning the geometry of it over and over in my mind. 5 years together, 2 years living in the same house. A proposal on the back porch with a ring he'd had for 6 weeks. And somewhere inside those 5 years, overlapping with us, concurrent with us, an engagement to another woman that he had never once mentioned. Not a college girlfriend, not an old story. An engagement, a ring. A woman who had posted photos of their future and then, 8 months ago, posted 3 words and a broken heart. Choosing myself. What had she chosen herself from? I got up at 6 a.m. Tyler was still asleep. I made coffee. I sat at the kitchen table in the house we shared and I opened Savannah Cole's Instagram again in the gray morning light. Her account was a normal life. Brunches, hiking photos, a dog named Biscuit, occasional posts about her job as a pediatric occupational therapist. Since the breakup post, she had not mentioned Tyler once. Not obliquely, not obviously. She had simply continued her life with the determined forward momentum of someone who had made a decision and was committed to it. I respected that in a strange, sideways way. I found her linked professional profile. It listed a clinic in the south end of Charlotte, 3 miles from where I was sitting. I stared at the address for a long time. And then I did something that I had never done before in my life and that I would, under any other circumstances, have considered completely unhinged. I typed out a message. Hi, Savannah. My name is Brooke Callahan. I know this is going to be a strange message, and I completely understand if you don't respond. I'm engaged to Tyler Marsh. I found out last night that you and Tyler were also engaged before us. I'm not reaching out to cause problems. I'm reaching out because I think there are things I don't know, and I think you might be the only person who can tell me what they are. I'm sorry to contact you like this. You don't owe me anything. I read it 4 times. I sent it. Tyler came downstairs at 7:30. He was in a good mood. The hangover-free, well-slept good mood of a man who had no idea his life was about to be examined. He kissed me on the top of my head and poured himself coffee and said, "Last night was great, huh? Mom did an amazing job." "She really did," I said. My voice came out perfectly normal. I noted this with the distant clinical detachment, the same detachment I use when a student is having a crisis and I need to be the calm adult in the room. He sat across from me and talked about the party. Who had said what? Which of his college friends had gotten noticeably older? How much he'd liked my sister's boyfriend. Normal morning conversation. The kind we'd had hundreds of times. I watched his face while he talked. I was looking for something. I wasn't sure what. A tell maybe. A seam in the performance. I didn't find one. Which was either because there was nothing to find, or because he was very, very good. Savannah responded at 11:04 a.m. Tyler had gone to run errands. I was alone in the house, ostensibly grading reading assessments, actually staring at my phone. Her message was careful. Measured. The message of someone who had thought about what to say before saying it. "Brooke, I appreciate you reaching out. I'll be honest, I've thought about this situation and what I might say if it ever came up. I think you deserve to know the truth. I'd rather talk by phone than message if that's okay with you. I want to make sure things don't get misconstrued." She included her number. I called her immediately. She picked up on the second ring. Her voice was calm and kind and slightly careful. The voice of a person who had rehearsed composure for a situation she'd always half expected. We started slowly. I told her what I knew, which was almost nothing. She listened without interrupting. Then she talked. Savannah and Tyler had met 4 years ago. 1 year into my relationship with Tyler, which landed in my chest like a stone, but I kept my voice even and let her continue. "Before you say anything," she said, and her voice shifted slightly. "I didn't know about you for a long time. I want to be clear about that." "How long?" I asked. "About a year in. I found out accidentally. A mutual friend mentioned something. When I confronted Tyler, he admitted it but said it was ending. That you were basically over. That he was trying to find the right time." I closed my eyes. "He said that. He said it very convincingly," she said. "I believed him. I stayed. And things were genuinely good for a while. We got engaged 18 months ago. I thought we were building something real." "What changed?" A pause. "His mother," she said. I had not mentioned Linda. Not once. I had not said her name or implied her involvement or given Savannah any reason to land there. She landed there on her own. "Linda never accepted me," Savannah said. "Not from the beginning. She was polite. She's always polite. She's very good at polite. But I felt it constantly. The way she'd redirect conversations about the wedding. The way she'd talk about Tyler's future and not include me in the picture. Little things individually meaningless, together, constant. I knew exactly what she was describing. I had felt it too. I had told myself I was being sensitive. "What did she do?" I asked. "She told Tyler I was wrong for him," Savannah said simply. "Not in one big conversation and then 100 small ones. Over months. She'd call him when she knew we'd just argued. She'd bring up things about my family, my background, my career, framed as concern, always framed as concern. She has a gift for making her preferences sound like wisdom." I was very still. "And Tyler listened." "Tyler always listens to his mother," Savannah said. "That's the thing about him, Brooke. He's a good man." He genuinely is. But he has never, not once in his adult life, made a significant decision without Linda's approval. He doesn't even fully know he does it. It's so deep in him it looks like personality. I thought about the proposal on the back porch. The ring he'd been carrying for 6 weeks. How long had Linda known about the ring? "Did she know about me?" I asked. "When you and Tyler were together, did she know he was still with me?" A silence that lasted exactly long enough to be an answer before she said, "Yes, she knew," Savannah said. "I found out after. When everything fell apart and Tyler finally told me the full timeline. He said his mother had known about you the entire time. Not just known. She had encouraged it, I think is the word he used. She thought you were the better fit. She thought I wasn't the right choice for the family." "The better fit," I repeated. "I think she had decided on you before Tyler had," Savannah said quietly. "I think she spent a year and a half pushing him toward an ending with me while he kept one foot in the door with you. And when he didn't move fast enough on his own, she moved him." The room was very quiet. "How?" I asked. "I don't know everything," she said. "But 3 months before he ended our engagement, Linda told him something. I don't know what. He won't tell me and he won't tell anyone. But whatever she said, it worked. He called off the engagement within a week, and 3 weeks later, he took you on that weekend trip." I felt the hair on my arms stand up. "How do you know about the trip?" "Because he told me about it," she said. "When he called off the engagement, he was honest, painfully honest. He said he'd never fully let you go. He said being with me while you existed in his life had never been entirely fair to either of us." He cried. He meant it. A breath. "But Brooke?" He also said his mother had made it very clear that ending things with me was the right thing to do. That the timing was right. Those were the words he used. "The timing is right." Like she'd given him a signal. I sat in my kitchen for a long time after we hung up. I thought about Linda at the engagement party. Her precision, her satisfaction, her 3 carefully allotted decisions. The color scheme, the appetizers, the wine. I thought about 5 years of small moments where Tyler had deferred to his mother and I had told myself it was just how he was. Family-oriented. Close. Nothing to worry about. I thought about what Linda might have told Tyler 3 months before he ended his engagement to Savannah. And I thought about something Savannah had said right before we hung up. "Can I tell you one more thing?" she'd said. "Something I never found out the answer to, but you might." "What?" "Ask Tyler what his mother told him about you," she said. "Specifically, what she told him that made you the right choice. Because I have a feeling, and this is just a feeling, Brooke, that whatever she told him about you wasn't entirely meant to help you." "What do you mean?" "I mean," Savannah said carefully, "that Linda Marsh doesn't do things for other people. She does things for Linda. And if she chose you, really chose you the way it sounds like she did, then she chose you because you give her something. Or because she thinks you will. What would I give her?" A pause. "That," Savannah said, "is what I'd want to know." That evening, Tyler came home with flowers. Spontaneous. No occasion, just because. He put them in a vase and kissed me and said, 4 months, Brooke. Can you believe it? 4 months and you're stuck with me forever. I smiled. And that night, after dinner, I called my mother. Mom, I said, how did Carol Hendricks know about Savannah Cole? A pause. She said she heard it from someone at the club. My mother said slowly. Why? Who at the club? Silence. Brooke, she said she heard it from Linda. Let me tell you what it feels like to realize you've been cast in someone else's plan. It's not anger, not at first. It's something quieter and more disorienting. Like walking into a room you thought you knew and finding the furniture rearranged. Everything is technically still there. The shape of it is familiar, but the configuration is wrong and suddenly you can't remember where anything is supposed to go. Linda had told Carol Hendricks about Savannah Cole. At a club lunch, casually, the kind of casual that is never casual, she had made sure the name would travel. Made sure it would reach my mother. Made sure my mother, who cannot sit on things, who leads with love even when she's about to detonate something, would tell me at the engagement party, the party Linda had planned. Linda had planted that name like a seed at her own son's engagement party, and then stood back and watched the room. The question was why. I spent 2 days not confronting Tyler. This was not easy. Tyler is perceptive in the way that people who love you tend to be perceptive. He noticed I was quieter than usual, noticed the slight recalibration in how I was moving through the house, and asked twice if I was okay. I said I was tired, pre-wedding stress. He accepted this with the easy trust of a man who has no reason to think he's being investigated. I used those 2 days carefully. I called Savannah again, briefly just one question. Did Linda ever mention anything about Tyler's family finances? Inheritance, property, anything like that? A pause. She mentioned a property once, Savannah said slowly. A lake house. Tyler's grandfather left it to the family. Linda controls the estate. She mentioned it in this offhand way once. Something about how it would stay in the family. How the right situation would make that simpler. The right situation, I said. I didn't think much of it at the time. I wrote it down. Then I called my sister. My sister Claire is 3 years older than me and works in estate law in Raleigh, which made her the exact right person to call. I told her everything. Tyler, Savannah, Linda, the planted name, the lake house reference, and I asked her to think out loud with me. She was quiet for a moment. Then, okay, first question. Do you know if Tyler has a will or any estate documents? I have no idea. Does Linda? I don't know that either. Here's what I want you to think about, Claire said carefully. If Linda controls a family estate and there's a property involved, and she's invested in who Tyler marries, that investment is probably not just emotional. It's structural. She may have conditions. Things that have to be in place for assets to transfer cleanly. Things like who's on a marriage certificate. I let that land. You think she chose me because of something legal? I think it's worth finding out, Claire said. I'm not saying that's all it is. But Brooke, a woman who plants information at her own son's engagement party, is not operating on sentiment. She's operating on strategy. I found the answer on a Wednesday afternoon. Tyler was at work. I was home for a teacher planning day. And I did something that I had never done in 5 years of being with Tyler. I looked through the filing cabinet in our shared home office. Not his private things. Not personal letters or journals. The filing cabinet where we kept household documents. Insurance, the lease, utilities. In the back of the third drawer, behind a folder of old tax returns, was a manila envelope with Tyler's name on it and a law firm's return address. I opened it. It was a copy of his grandfather's estate documents. 12 pages, dense legal language that I read slowly and carefully the way you read something when you understand that every word matters. I found what I was looking for on page 8, a clause. Specific and unambiguous. The lake house, valued, according to the appraisal attached, at $1.4 million, would transfer to Tyler Marsh upon the occasion of his marriage, provided his spouse met a single condition. The condition was 4 words. Approved by Linda Marsh. Tyler's grandfather, who had died 6 years ago, before I had ever met any of these people, had written his daughter-in-law into the inheritance clause of his estate, had given her, explicitly and legally, veto power over who his grandson married. And Linda, who had known about this clause for 6 years, who had been quietly auditing every woman in Tyler's life against criteria only she understood, had decided at some point that I was the approved candidate, not for Tyler, for the clause. And Savannah, who had not been approved, had been removed, with a phone call probably. Something Linda told Tyler 3 months before the engagement ended. Something that landed with enough weight to move a man who loved a woman enough to propose to her. I thought about what that phone call might have sounded like. I thought about how easy it would be, if you were very good at framing your preferences as wisdom, to convince a son that the woman he loved was wrong for him, and to do it just before reminding him, gently, what was at stake. $1.4 million. A lake house. An approval. I called Claire back. I read her the clause. She was silent for 4 seconds, which for Claire is a long time. Brooke, she said. I know. This is okay. This is not nothing. This is a legally binding estate clause that gives a third-party approval rights over your marriage. That's unusual and it's not nothing. Can it be challenged? Potentially, depending on jurisdiction and how the estate was structured. But that's not really the immediate question, is it? No, I said. The immediate question is whether Tyler knows. Silence. Does he? Claire asked. I thought about Tyler on the back porch, the ring he'd carried for 6 weeks. The way he'd said this is my life and I want it to be my life permanently. The way he'd cried when he ended things with Savannah, according to her, painfully honest, genuinely grieving. Did he know? I don't know, I said honestly, and I think that's the most important thing I need to find out. I made dinner that night. Something uncomplicated, pasta, salad, the kind of meal that doesn't require performance. Tyler came home and we ate and talked about ordinary things, and I watched him the way Savannah had probably watched him at some point, looking for the seam, the tell, the place where the man she thought she knew showed a different edge. After dinner, I refilled his water glass and sat back down and said very calmly, I need to ask you something. And I need you to tell me the truth, Tyler. Not the managed version. The actual truth. He put his fork down. The change in my tone registered immediately. I watched it move across his face like a shadow. Okay, he said carefully. Who is Savannah Cole? The silence that followed was 11 seconds long. I counted. He didn't deny it. He didn't do the where did you hear that deflection or the casual confusion of a practiced liar. He just stopped, like a man who has been waiting for a door to open and is not entirely surprised that it finally has. How did you find out? He said quietly. That's not an answer to my question. He looked at the table, then at me, and he told me, not everything, not yet, not all at once, but he told me about Savannah. He told me the timeline. He confirmed the overlap, which cost him visibly, and I gave him credit for not trying to minimize it. He said he had been wrong. He said he was sorry. He said he had ended things with Savannah because he realized he had never fully let me go. Did your mother influence that decision? I asked. A beat. We talked. She had concerns about Savannah and Tyler. I slid the estate document across the table. Page 8. He looked down at it, and the expression that crossed his face answered my most important question. He had not known. He read it twice. He set it down. He pressed both hands flat on the table like he needed something solid. She never told me, he said. His voice was strange, stripped of its usual steadiness, something raw underneath. I know, I said. Brooke, I'm not angry at you right now, I said. I want to be clear about that. I'm not yet. What I am is very clear about what happens next. He looked up. We are going to have a conversation with your mother, I said. All 3 of us. And she is going to explain to both of us exactly what she told you about Savannah, and exactly what she has told other people about me, and exactly what she thinks that clause entitles her to. Tyler was quiet for a long moment. Then, and this was the moment I understood who he actually was when it mattered. Okay, he said. I'll call her tonight. Linda Marsh arrived at our house on a Saturday morning at 10 o'clock exactly. She was dressed as if for lunch, pressed slacks, a silk blouse, pearl earrings, and she carried a small box of pastries from the bakery she always brought things from, because Linda never arrived anywhere empty-handed, because arriving with something made it a visit instead of a confrontation. I opened the door. We looked at each other. Her smile was warm and practiced and arrived exactly on schedule. Brooke, sweetheart. You look lovely. Come in, Linda, I said. Tyler was in the living room. He had not slept well. I knew the particular way he held himself when he was bracing for something. And he stood when his mother came in with the careful posture of a man who has spent a night deciding who he is. Linda looked between us. The smile adjusted, barely imperceptibly the micro-calibration of someone very good at reading rooms. Everything all right? She said lightly. You two are very serious looking for a Saturday morning. Sit down, Mom, Tyler said. She sat. I had thought carefully about how to do this. I had considered and rejected the version where I came in with anger, because anger with someone like Linda was a gift. It gave her something to manage, to soothe, to redirect. Linda was extraordinary at managing emotions that weren't her own. What she was less prepared for was paperwork. I placed 3 things on the coffee table. The estate document opened to page 8. A printed copy of the email chain between Tyler and the lawyer that Claire had helped me locate. Correspondence from 8 months ago in which the clause had been referenced and Linda had been copied. And a single sheet of paper that Claire had prepared. A formal request for the clause to be reviewed and, pending legal consultation, potentially contested. Linda looked at the table. Her face did something interesting. Not quite surprise, not quite recognition. The expression of someone encountering a situation they had considered theoretically, but not practically. Where did you get these? She said. That's not really the relevant question, I said. Tyler spoke first. He was measured. Careful. I had watched him prepare for this conversation the way I had watched him prepare for difficult things before, quietly, internally, arriving at something resolved before he opened his mouth. He told his mother that he knew about the clause. He told her he had never been informed of it directly. He told her that he had understood all his life that her guidance came from love, and that he was now understanding it also came from something else. "You told me Savannah wasn't right for me," he said. "You said it for months. You said it in 100 different ways. And I listened because I trusted you. But you were also the person who decided whether she was approved. You were the judge and the advisor at the same time. And you never told me." Linda's chin lifted slightly. "I was protecting you," she said. "Everything I have ever done has been to protect this family." "Protecting the family?" I said quietly. "Or protecting the asset?" She looked at me. For the first time since I had known her, Linda Marsh looked at me without the warmth, without the performance. Just directly. Two people in the same room with no pretense between them. "You're smarter than I gave you credit for," she said. It was not a compliment. It was a recalibration. "I know," I said. "I want to be fair to Linda, because I told you at the beginning of this story that I try to see the full shape of things." Linda was not a monster. She was a woman who had been handed a specific kind of power, unusual, legal, unasked for, and had used it the way people use power when they've had it long enough to forget it's unusual. She had convinced herself, I think genuinely, that she was acting in Tyler's best interest, that her approval was wisdom, not control, that curating who her son loved was an extension of loving him. She was wrong, but she wasn't villainous in the way of someone who knows they're doing harm and does it anyway. She was villainous in the more common way, the way of someone who has never been asked to account for themselves. Until now. "What do you want?" Linda asked. Direct, finally. The question underneath all the pastries and pearl earrings. "I want the clause removed," I said. "Not contested, removed, voluntarily. I want your written confirmation, prepared by an attorney, that you relinquish approval rights over Tyler's marriage, permanently and completely. And if I don't, then Claire files the contest," I said, "which will take time, cost money, and require a full accounting of every decision you made under the authority of that clause, including what you said to Tyler about Savannah when you said it, and how it aligned with your financial interests in the estate." Silence. "I also want an apology," I said, "to Tyler, for making decisions about his life without his knowledge or consent. Not to me, you don't owe me that yet, but to him." Linda looked at her son. Tyler was looking at his hands. "I did what I thought was right," she said. Her voice had lost some of its precision, something underneath it, older and less managed. "I always did what I thought was right." "I know," Tyler said quietly, "but you didn't give me the chance to decide for myself. You never did." The room was very still. She signed the relinquishment 3 weeks later. Claire oversaw it. Clean, legal, witnessed. Linda did it without being taken to court, which I think was the right outcome. Not because she deserved the easier path, but because prolonged legal battles have a way of consuming the people fighting them. And I was not willing to let Linda Marsh consume any more of my time than she already had. The lake house transferred to Tyler on the day of our wedding. We decided together to sell it. Our wedding was smaller than originally planned. After everything, the idea of an 80-person event organized by Linda felt impossible. Not because I was angry, but because I was done performing in someone else's production. We scaled it back to 30 people, our closest family and friends, at a small venue I found and booked myself. Linda attended. We had reached a functional, honest, carefully boundaried detente, the kind that's sustainable because it's built on clarity rather than pretense. She sat in the second row. She did not plan a single detail. She brought pastries to the brunch the next morning. I ate one. It was excellent. I told her so. Small things. The building blocks of something that might eventually become workable. Tyler and I went to couples therapy, not because we were broken, but because I wanted us to understand, clearly and with professional help, the pattern we'd been living inside. The ways his mother's influence had shaped him without his awareness. The ways I had trained myself to overlook things I shouldn't have overlooked. Our therapist said something in our third session that I have thought about many times since. "The goal isn't to be without history," she said. "It's to understand it well enough that it stops making your decisions for you." Tyler's working on that. So am I. I still teach second grade at Maplewood Elementary. I still explain the world to 7-year-olds who I maintain have significant portions of it figured out better than the rest of us. I tell them when the subject comes up that being brave isn't the absence of fear. It's doing the important thing anyway. The phone call you're not sure you should make, the question you're not sure you want answered, the conversation you keep postponing because the current version of things is easier than the true version. I tell them this because I believe it. And because one night at 1:47 a.m. in the dark, next to a man I loved and a ring I wasn't sure I still fully understood, I picked up my phone and typed a name into a search bar and chose the true version. It was harder. It was worth it.